All right, peace. Good morning, family. How you doing? It's Mr. R2. Man, I don't know what happened today. I'm just gonna be honest. I don't know what happened. Like I had to shut it down, I had to restart it, and it just was doing whatever it wanted to do. So the first thing, of course, that I need to know is if you can hear me, because sometimes technology has its own way of interrupting your day, or it has its own way of assisting your day. So just peace and good morning to you. If you can hear me, please let me know. Cause yeah, technology did its thing this morning. So again, just peace and blessings and thank you for you and what you're doing. All right. So it kind of worked out. Today is October the 10th. It kind of worked out with what I'm talking about today actually like kind of happened today at the same time because we're talking about from peak to peak. From peak to peak. So let me get the caption up because I hate that the caption is not up. So for those that are off today, who's recognizing what they now call Indigenous Day, yeah, that's just how you're doing it right now today. All right, so let's go ahead. I'm not gonna stay on long because I felt my time has already been thrown to the left and through the right. But we're just going to communicate about what we're going to be uh, in thought. So today we're talking about from peak to peak. So for those who may be new to the platform, like always, you would get inversions, whether it's red over white or white over red, and you would get definitions. And then we'll go into our deep dive and pretty much cap it off, end the discussion, after that. So let's go with it. All right, let's go. Here we go. All right, so from peak to peak. The definition of peak to peak is life's balance to keep your expectations in check while developing your experiences. Life's balance to keep your expectations in check while developing your experiences. Now, the inversion on this is red over white, which is life balance to keep your expectations and experiences. So, what I kind of want to do here is change this just a little bit. Give it a little bit of R2 flair to it because sometimes our expectations get the best of us. Our expectations really take our emotions and throw things to the left and throw things to the right because of when things just don't happen for us, our expectations get the best. Our emotions may get the best of us. So I kind of want to change this just a little bit. So, of course, right now it says life balance to keep your expectations in check while developing your experiences. Now, again, we're talking about from peak to peak, and I want you to visually think about two mountaintops, right? So I'm gonna bring this up real quick just so you can really see it for what I'm saying. All right, so you see the graphics. You have this individual on the mountaintop, on their mountaintop, and then you have another peak. So now let's look at it this way again. Life's balance to keep your expectations in check while developing your experiences. While life's balance and expectations in check while developing your experiences. So there's always going to be ups and downs, but a lot of times when we put our expectations on things and when those things just don't happen, then we feel some type of way. That's just human nature. There's nothing bad about feeling some type of way, but that does carry an emotional trait. Not that there's something wrong with emotions, but acknowledging that you can kind of put more pressure on you than the pressure that is not warranted, is not needed because of the heavy weight of an expectation or the heavy weight of that expectations that you've placed upon yourself didn't actually fall through like you expected it to. So now let's look at this just from a different way, right? So in expectations, it said, is a strong belief that something will happen or be the case in the future. And the inversion that I want you to pay attention to is a strong belief. Your expectations can be so strong and so powerful that when it don't happen, again, like I said before, when it does not happen, it weighs on you. So the little switch is we're going to change expectation into appreciation. So life balance to keep your appreciation in check while developing your experiences. So why did you change expectations and appreciation? I'm going to show you why. So the definition of appreciation is a recognition and the enjoyment of good qualities of someone or something. Gratitude. So if it is said, let's go back. If it is said that the balance of keeping your appreciation in check while developing your experiences. Because when you're looking at appreciation, there are highs to it. There are a lot more highs, a lot more peaks in appreciation than it is in expectation. Now, I want you to soak that in and look at that from a personal perspective and take the personal approach. So when we're in our valley, when we're coming off of our peak, and then we see the next goal or the next thing that we want to go towards or reach or we want to accomplish, we can appreciate the highs as well as we can appreciate the lows. That's different. That's a different type of energy. The frequency is different. Because when you're talking about your expectations, using the same analogy, you had expectations to be so high that now when you find yourself in the valley, you've placed so much weight on you because you had high expectations. And now when you're in the valley, it feels low because you had high expectations and you might not learn the lessons that needed to be learned on how you got to where you are, or have or shown some sort of gratitude. Like, you know what, man, when it was good, it was good. But now I remember how I got there. And I'm going to recognize, remember, it has recognition in there. I'm going to recognize what I did in order for me to get myself back at that level. So I'm able to go from peak to peak because I recognize my appreciation of even when I'm at my lowest point. So experience. The definition of experience, it says the process of living through an event or events. And the inversion is the process of event or events. That means there is always something that is going to happen in our lives. There's always that thing that's going to happen in our lives. And there are always things that are going to happen in our lives. But when we actually show and recognize and live in the moment and acknowledge that the moment took place, then we begin to learn from those experiences on how to create or recreate that high again, and having that high level of appreciation that can allow you to get from the peak and go through the valley to get to your next peak. Because it's not always about how high you are, but how did you get there? Because it can teach you the process of what you've learned to get to that point or that peak optimum or that high performance level, how did you get there? It teaches you how to duplicate that in going from peak to peak. So let's go ahead and take this quick deep dive. Then we can go ahead and close it out. So now life is like a series of peaks and valleys, and that's true. Hell, I can tell you that's true. And I'm sure you can tell me that's true as well. Life is definitely a series of peaks and valleys. So if life is a series of peaks and valleys, then there's also a series of peaks and peaks, right? From peak to peak. I can and operate at a high frequency. And I can develop myself to the point to where I am learning so much about me that I know how to perform when it's time to perform. I know how to flip that switch and get to it because I understand what peak optimum performance looks like. I understand what peak optimum performance feels like. And before I can do it again. So from peak to peak. And because life is a series of peaks and valleys, like our health, wealth, and our happiness, and the development of different skill sets at certain times in our lives, but those things help us know how to expect those peaks and valleys. Because we want to expect those peaks and valleys, and we can appreciate the valleys just as well as we can appreciate the peaks. We can appreciate the good and the ugly because it's really about the lessons. It's already October. It's already the 10th month of the year. So now my question to you is, are you ready to continue to learn? Are you ready to observe and acknowledge that the valley is just as important as the peaks? Just as well as the peaks are just as important as the valleys. Because remember, it's a balance between your appreciation as well as your experiences. Learn from your experience. Well, first of all, acknowledge the experience. Acknowledge the lesson from the experience. Be accountable for the experience. And then you can appreciate the peaks as well as you can appreciate the valley. All about how are you balancing your appreciation and your experiences. I mean, we all go through it. I go through it, you go through it. But when we learn about it, when we learn about who we are, when we learn about how we feel, when we learn about how we think, then we know how to transform expectations to appreciations. I rather appreciate the lessons that I've learned. Trust me, I appreciate the lessons that I've learned to get to 46. I appreciate that. I don't care whether I learned or it became a process or an easy learning process. I appreciate those processes that I've gone through because it allows me to stand at a peak and to look down and say, oh man, I want to go back down. If I need to teach someone, I want to go back down and teach them, like, look, not always going to be where you are right now. Can I show you something? I've been there. Can I tell you something? I know what it feels like. Now let's climb this hill together. And when we get to the peak, we can appreciate the valley just as much. Appreciate the peaks that we're now. All right, that's it for me. I guess enjoy the rest of whatever your day off is. and enjoy your day. And remember, here at Consistency is Currency, your morning podcast of choice. I see you tomorrow at 7:30 in the morning right here. Y'all be blessed. Peace.